Welcome to In Tune. I'm your co-host, Matt Rector, an aspiring luthier from Baltimore, Maryland.
And I'm your other co-host, Ethan Morset, a music producer and founder of Blue Haven Music based in Minnesota.
Our goal is to provide value to enterprising musicians, artists, and craftspeople by sharing our conversations and the lessons we've learned along the way.
If you like our content, help us out by following us and giving us a positive rating on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Tune in for new episodes on the first and third Wednesday of each month.
This is episode 41. It is January, or I guess at the time of recording this, it's December, but this episode will air in January. And Ethan and I want to take a little bit of time to look back at 2024, reflect on the progress that we've made, and potentially look ahead at the next year and see some things that maybe we can do better or some things that we can shoot for the upcoming year. So this is going to be a bit of a reflections episode. Ethan is currently fidgeting with his microphone and some other gear. So
Sorry, my microphone stand was being
you're good.
Not in the optimal placement for me. Okay, I'm good now. Sorry about that.
It's fine. I was gonna hand it off to you, but since you were a little preoccupied, I wasn't sure. But would you like to go first, Ethan? Since I kicked this episode off.
So just reviewing 2024?
Yeah, just a review of 2024, what went well, what didn't go so well, and what you look to do in 2025.
Yeah. Okay. 2024 was a good year. Did a lot. Wrote a lot of songs, changed direction a couple times, so I'm in a new spot now than I was at the beginning of the year, which is good. Learned a lot. Did that conference. Started doing music production lessons. Well, I did music production lessons a while ago. I continue doing music production lessons, but I did just recently start music licensing lessons, which I'm going to do on a monthly basis. So I think that'll be good too going forward. And I met that person from the conference. So there you go. Yeah. As far as goals that I hit my songwriting goal for the year. I was going to release 9 songs. I've released more than that. Release for me doesn't mean just on Spotify. It means like either Spotify or something I submitted to Taxi. So I wrote more than my goal. As far as saving up money to quit, I saved up all the money that I wanted to save up. And I haven't quit yet. So, yeah. 'Cause I am terrified of quitting. Not really, but I have a lot more buffer and a lot more cushion so that hopefully sometime in 2025, like I have that flexibility to quit if I want to. And not have to really worry about finances for a while. I mean, obviously having to cut costs, but you know what I mean? Like having that buffer to live off of and focus on music. So that was good. Again, learned tons of stuff from my music production coach, so that has continued to pay off. Got the Instagram this year up to 500 followers, 550 actually. So really worked on building up my Instagram followers. We'll continue to do that in the new year. Things that like maybe I didn't do as much of or didn't get as far along with. Again, I wish I had more songs placed in things so I was getting money. It's taking way longer than I want it to. So, I mean, on that respect, like, it would be nice to have more stuff in placements and at least have momentum there, which I do have some momentum. Like, I've gotten songs that have been forwarded on to people that are considering music for like TV and stuff. They just haven't actually been placed in like a TV show. Um, so, or a commercial or whatever. So, like, that could have gotten better. I'm not too terribly upset about that because I understand I'm going to have to probably be persistent and patient with that. Um, Honestly, like, that's probably like the biggest, like, at least music wise, the biggest miss for the year is just still not being there, not being to a point where I like have more momentum and more income coming in from my music. Um, Otherwise, like, honestly, I think I did pretty good. Like, I released the amount of music that I wanted to release. I um I started doing music production, or I started doing music licensing lessons really recently. I did the conference. So, like, overall, I think it was a good year. Always wish I was farther along than I was, or than I am, but like, also I made a lot of good progress this year. So, I gotta, keep that in mind too. Um, I didn't hit all my personal goals, like music, not music goals, but like other things like losing weight. I struggled with that one. My health goals, not that I'm unhealthy, but like my health goals did not do as well.
I
As
feel you on
as
that one.
as my music goals. So I think, like, again, I would love to. I originally planned on like quitting in March of this year. That obviously hasn't happened. Uh, so like, that's the biggest thing, is like not focusing full time on music, not having more income from my music yet. Um, but I feel optimistic about the future. Um, so maybe that's my retro, I guess. It's kind of a little bit all over the place, but maybe we start with reflection and then we can talk about like what we're gonna do about the things we didn't do as well on, or
Hmm.
whatever. We can either talk about like what we missed in 2024 that we're gonna try to come up with solutions for in 2025, or like whatever goals we have for 2025. But
I
what?
did.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I did have one question. You said that you changed direction a couple times.
Yep.
Early on, or like you said that early on in your kind of retrospective.
Yep.
Um, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what do you mean by that? How did you change course and why?
Well, like at the beginning of the year, I was more focused on um releasing music to Spotify, right? Like, so like at the beginning of the year I released Fix Me and then Snow, which is hard to believe that those were the beginning of this year, but they were. Um and so I was like more focused on release. I wasn't like, I knew I wanted to do the music licensing stuff, but I wasn't like as direct towards that. And then in the middle of the year, I started uploading more songs to Pond 5, which is like a music licensing library. And then, um, and then I met with a music licensing mentor in the middle of the year, and they kind of started pushing me towards Taxi instead of Pond 5, which changed from like Pond 5, like pretty much lets anybody upload anything, you know? So like, it's not like you're a needle in a haystack, right? And a lot of the stuff in that haystack is not necessarily very good quality.
Hmm.
It's not bad necessarily, but it's also probably not like really good. Whereas like Taxi's model is less, you not just anybody will submit to everything because there's a financial cost involved. So like I've switched to Taxi, and submitting to Taxi, and then through that organization met a bunch of other music licensing people, learned a lot of things. So like I've pivoted a couple times. I was not
Mhm.
even thinking about Taxi at the beginning of the year and like submitting to that. Um, so I don't know. That's kind of what I mean. That's where my
Okay.
like focus is right now. I'm not really focused on releasing music. I'm focused on making music and submitting them to briefs on Taxi is kind of my focus now. So,
Nice.
what about you, Matt? How's
Honestly,
2024?
we talked about this a little bit before we started recording today,
Mm-hmm.
and this year has been kind of disappointing for me in terms of the progress with Rector guitars. Um, I just didn't make as much progress as I want, and I can make excuses for it, but a big part of it was just not devoting enough time. Um, it was tough this year. There's a number of reasons why that was. Um, had a lot of visitors. We moved, um, and it was almost like every month we had like a visitor or something for like a week, or it's probably not every month, but it seems that way. Hold on, just a second. What? Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I had surgery early in the year. Um, you guys came out and we did a backpacking trip. We moved. Um, Abby's mom came and visited. My mom came and visited. We went on a road trip. Abby's family came for like the holidays and Thanksgiving. Um, Kyle was out here as well. Uh, and we went to some O's games. And not that any of those things were a burden. I like having a lot of people come visit, but I feel like I already have a 9 to 5 job. I work full time, and I definitely envy you that you have like
Day
you work
off.
4 days a week. Yeah, so it's pretty hard for me like to with that, and then just everything that's going on in my life, and um, I got involved with a makerspace this year, which was really cool. And I took on sort of a leadership role there. And while that was a lot of fun, like I thought I would be spending more time like working on my own projects, and it's just turned into something where I've been spending a lot of my energy kind of towards administrative stuff for the organization. Which again, it's a great organization. Like I'm glad that I did that. Um, but honestly, I just think I need to be better at saying no and setting aside a specific time to work on my own projects. I definitely made like I'm in this new space now, and it is definitely like a much better space and a much better setup. So I'm set up like going into 2025 to like be I think really productive. I have over 1,000 followers. I hit that like I'm at like 1,050 or something. So
Nice.
I think that if I start posting regularly and just you know working more consistently and posting content more specifically, I can definitely grow in that way. Um, but yeah, I would have liked to have, actually built more instruments this year rather than like building out my shop and moving and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, you did a lot happen this year, right? Um, like you talking about it. Yeah, I mean, just the visitors alone probably like made it hard to like because you're probably not gonna if you have somebody visiting for a week, you're probably not gonna really be doing necessarily as much like workshop stuff. Um, but yeah, I I think it's easy to set goals at the beginning of the year and then let like the whole year go by with like and make progress, but like not not get as far along as you would like to because things get in the way. Um and um I don't know, do you have any thoughts about like how strategies or things you could try that might help you into 2025, like make sure that you're getting, like you said, time was the big thing. Make
Hmm.
sure that you're getting the time that you, at least some time towards Luthery, like maybe every week or like
It's yeah, I mean it's honestly what I was just saying. Like I just need to be I need to come up with a plan to do it consistently at a specific time and just be better about saying no to distractions and interruptions. Um that and also that's the same with like personal goals. Like, I think we both talked about losing weight this year and I didn't really like I stayed about the same. Like again, I'm not unhealthy like you were saying. Like I'm perfectly healthy, but would I like to lose a few pounds? Yeah, like do I need to? Not really, but I would like to.
mm-hmm.
Um and that really didn't happen this year. Like maybe a little bit. Um man, after our hiking trip, I I lost I lost a good amount of weight from that trip or like directly after, but then like I've put it back on since then. Probably. Um yeah, so it is what it is, but just devoting a consistent time to doing it and being better about doing a little bit consistently rather than like trying to pack in a lot. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's my biggest issue, and I think it would help me to write things down, have more of a calendar and like plan things out a little bit more rather than just trying to do everything spur of the moment.
I think
You're a lot
again,
better at that stuff than I am.
well, like I think it takes time to like figure out what works for you and like to like really make it turn it into like a habit or like a routine. Um I think one thing that works well for me is like, and it obviously like it doesn't always happen, but like yeah, scheduling it. Like putting it in your calendar like it was any other event, like an event that you intend to keep, and
Mm-hmm.
then like and then when people like try to like schedule like dinner or something in that time frame or to like hang out, be like sorry, like can't, like I'm trying really hard to like set aside this time every week because I want to move my workshop ahead, so like I got to treat that like I'm serious about it, like it's a
Mm-hmm.
meeting, like a like if it was a business meeting, or if it was like something work related, right? Um, because to you, someday you hope that it will be, right? So like you got to treat it like that. So like that works really well for me because then like I mean I've told you this, but like the 4 to 6, I get home, I get off work at 4, and then until 6 most evenings, unless I have like something pop up, like most of the time that's just an extension of my work day. And then I'm lucky I've got the Monday. But again, like that's in my calendar. Like I don't just use my Mondays for like anything. Like I don't even stay like a lot of times, even though I could take a longer weekend, like a 3-day weekend
Mm-hmm.
down in Iowa. I don't a lot of times. I like come back up here and treat it like as if I was in the office. Um, so I think like that can be more powerful than you think. But it also depends on how much you rely on your calendar. If you don't look at your calendar a lot and you don't rely on it for like when your mom's visiting or when I'm visiting, like you don't use it to like remember that stuff or check in on that stuff, then maybe that's not the strategy. But like I use my calendar every day. I look at it every day. I would be a little not lost, but I would have a lot harder time keeping track of everything if I didn't use my calendar as like my source of like um what I'm doing day to day. So like if you could
Yeah.
treat it like a workday thing, I found that to be a really good strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I know what I need to do. It's just actually doing it.
Could
I
you
feel like.
like
Oh, go ahead.
when do you normally get off work?
5 to 6.
5 to 6? Man, that's so late. When do you normally go to work? Like when do you start?
Mm, start. We need to be there by 9. Usually leave the house by like 8:30, ideally.
Is it possible? I don't know if you're more of a morning or night person. Like 6 seems kind of late. Is it possible for you to like get up early and do more like workshop stuff and like
The
maybe
I I think the concern with that is like noise. Like
sure.
I don't know. Like I can't necessarily be like chopping a mortise at like 6 a.m. in the morning. Um,
Right.
you know,
No,
there's
but could you at like um I don't know. I mean, maybe you could find things that are quieter during that time.
mhm,
Maybe you could do like more of your like administrative stuff in the morning if you have any of it, like
social
Instagram
media.
Instagram stuff. Like your every morning from 8 to 8:30 is like administrative stuff, so you don't have to do that in the evenings when you want to be working on like actual like woodworking stuff, not administrative stuff
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a good idea.
or something like that. Um, I'm a big advocate of just extending my workday, you know?
It's interesting. You and I have known each other for a long time. And you know that I'm the type of person when I get into something, I get really into it. And not to say that lutherie or woodworking is a passing hobby for me, because it's definitely not. Um, but I don't know if I'd use the word better. I think I'm really good at like sprinting, and you are better at the long distance, the
Mhm.
consistency. And I think if you look back a couple years ago where we were at, like I got into this, I built some instruments, I like got a logo, like I got my like social media like going like,
Mhm.
and then it's funny now, I feel like this year you made much more progress than I did.
Mhm.
And I think that just, not that it's like I'm not trying to say one of us is necessarily wrong or right or anything like that. It's not meant like that. It's just um yeah, I need to
Different
improve on
styles.
the consistency.
Well, maybe you can use the whole sprinting thing to your advantage. Maybe figure out a way like maybe instead of being more like I think there's some value in consistency, but maybe you like block a weekend off every month and that is your like sprint weekend or something like that. And like again, same strategy, like nothing else can interfere with that. Like it's as if you were going to be out of town, right? And then like treating that as a your sprint weekend or whatever version of that. I feel like there's some strategy you could maybe think of that like groups it in a way that maybe whether you need to do the long distance or you need to do the sprinting strategy, maybe there's something you can like figure out. Um like
I
get
think that's
like
it's so
creative.
interesting. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I think that would work pretty well for me, and it's interesting because creative people have. It's just interesting seeing different people's creative process, right? Like I know that some like songwriters and like people who are music producers or woodworkers, they're very, some of them are very consistent, but some of them are also like very chaotic,
Mhm.
right? Like some creative people are very chaotic, and I wish I wasn't that way, but like I feel like I probably fall more in that camp.
Mhm.
And so like maybe I need to develop better habits, but maybe I need to try to develop better habits to support my way of working or
Organize the chaos.
yeah. That's actually I that's a good point cuz I think sometimes me trying to do everything like so structured is hard for me and I'm like fighting against my own nature. And then the other thing that's really tough is like once I get off, I have a hard time like jumping back on the train.
Mhm.
Um it kind of discourages me and then I like ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get
So,
that. I get that. I don't know. I mean, I do think like if you can, even like I don't know how it applies to Luthery, but like um maybe not every day, but a lot of days I have something that I can do, like a small task that I can do that only takes me like 15 minutes. Like if you could like even do that rather than being like what if you did like what if your goal was like every day I'm going to devote at least 15 minutes. Like you're making like such an easy goal to achieve, right? Like at least 15 minutes, which basically means completing one small task that you might not be able to do like the big hitter stuff, but like even setting your workshop up so that when you get to the weekend, everything's already all set up and you can just do the work that you want to do. Like, even that is a task worth doing that you would have otherwise had to have done on the weekend, right? So, like, are there things you can do like prep work or like some small job or like a like a small glue job or I don't know, like I don't know Luthery stuff, like but like are there like how can you think outside the box and get creative where you can be like, okay, how even though like building a guitar is going to take days, um like how can you break that up into small tasks so that you're just doing something for 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, one day, but like 15 minutes is is all you have to clear and then you're done. And then that 15 minutes is going to add up over time, and it doesn't have to be always building a guitar, but it could be like the administrative stuff, or it could be
mhm.
maybe one day it is like getting ready for a job that you're going to do on the weekend or something like that. um or maybe it doesn't, like maybe you could still schedule stuff, but it doesn't have to be like a routine thing where it's like it's every Thursday or every whatever. Maybe you're like, okay, I really want to get this job done on Saturday, so I'm going to block my Saturday off. Like it's not consistent. It's like you schedule it as if it was like a
Mhm.
inconsistent event, Um you know what I mean?
Schedule it as if it was inconsistent. That's funny.
Well, but you know what I mean, right?
I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Uh like I feel like there's a lot of ways to be creative and think outside the box with like that that work for you. I do think the 15 minutes a day would be good regardless of what you do, cuz then again that stuff, 15 minutes a day, you could do that before work, right? Like as long as it's not noisy, and and then that gives you just like a little bit of momentum, right? Like and then like you don't like you get to the end of the week and you're like, oh man, rather than thinking I've gotten literally nothing done, you can be like, well, I didn't get a lot done, but at least I got this and this done, or I set myself up well for the next thing. Like then you have a little bit of momentum, and then that might maybe motivate you to like have a burst weekend all of a sudden where you just like really hit it hard, you
Yeah.
know?
Once I have the momentum, I get very gung ho and really go for it. It's just building that momentum for me can take a while. And I also think something that is a struggle sometimes in particular with like what I'm doing is so especially because I am in like a small workshop space, I don't necessarily have the space to have lots of lumber stored,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I have to be really strategic about planning out how I'm going to build things and when I'm going to acquire the materials, like that sort of thing. So, like, I know there's definitely different, like, aspects to music production, but for the most part, I think with what you have in your studio, you have everything that you need to
Mm-hmm.
create
Yep.
and to do what you need to do, like at your fingertips.
Yep.
Whereas for me, like, I might have to source some wood and wait for it to arrive. And um if there's like any like dimensioning, like if I get it shipped, or I might have to go out to a local lumber supplier um and go get something, right? And it can be hard for me to find the time when I'm working my normal job. I come home, I walk the dog, I've got a high energy dog, so want to take him on a decently long walk, then I might cook dinner, do some chores, laundry, and by that time it's like 9 o'clock at night,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so it can be really hard for me to find that time to like plan some of that stuff out. And that's, I think, one of the things that really is a barrier for me. Um, yeah, the logistics of some of those things. And then, like, say I get the lumber and it's like a really big chunk and I need to break it down into smaller pieces. Well, I could do that at home with my hand tools. It's more practical for me to do that at the makerspace. But that's like 15, 20 minutes away too, right? And so then I have to plan a time to go do that and like
Could you go to the
leave the space.
makerspace? Could you go to the makerspace before work? Like I know, like you said, like noise is an issue. Like, could you be noisy at the makerspace? Like I'm not.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
know,
tough though.
I know. You and
I'd have to
Abby
be
like commute together and everything. Like,
that'd be tough. I'd have to be up super early and be like there's some like sort of challenges there. Like if I go there and I get covered in sawdust, like I've got long hair, like I get sawdust in my hair, like all that stuff. Like it can kind of be like I need to clean up before I go to my professional sort of white collar job. So like
I mean, is there
um
any like? I'm assuming there's no like anywhere to like freshen up like
there's a bathroom, but there's
anywhere.
no shower or anything. Like so there's some logistical like difficulties with that, and then yeah, I think that's part of what really slows down like my creativity and my momentum a lot of times is just things like that. Like, oh, I have to order something and then I wait for it to arrive, or oh, I have to go get this wood and I don't have any time this week to go do that. Like, so then I can't go until like for a couple weeks, like, and sure there's like some other things I could be working on maybe, but like that definitely slows down the progress. Or then like, oh, I got this, but now I need to break it down, and I, need to take this in my minivan and head to the makerspace and find a time to do that, and
Mm-hmm.
and then come back and bring that back, and those things I think can be bottlenecks sometimes for me
Mm-hmm.
that slow down my momentum.
I don't know. Maybe I I mean I get that, and you have complications that I don't have. Um, then like I guess the only thing that I can like suggest is just try to like journal about it, right? Like here are the problems I'm facing right now that are blockers for me, and just literally sitting for 30 minutes and being like, okay, what's a solution, right? Like, and you could generate a bunch of like crap solutions, but like maybe by thinking through that process, you'll have a little like mini epiphany, like, oh, I could do this, and then that would help mitigate that bottleneck a little bit more. Like, you're still working with the same amount of time, but maybe there's like some way to be like smarter with your time, right? Like batching stuff up, or like or like I'll if the local lumber place is open before you go to work, maybe you could go pick the lumber up in your van before you go to work, and then it's in the van and you bring it home with you. You don't have to worry, because like I think with your schedule, like you starting your evening at 6 o'clock at night, that gives you a really short window to work with before like you got to be thinking about like going to bed. Like so like I think what the heck? That's gonna be in the video. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like you just gotta like you gotta be like, here's the problem, and like here's a way I could maybe solve it, or here's something I could do to make the problem less, or like here's how I could handle it, right? Then you can look at that list and be like, is there anything here that's like worth any merit whatsoever? Hopefully there's something that can at least be like a step in the right direction. I don't know. Sometimes that works for me, right? Like I don't know. I know a problem. I don't know a solution. I'm gonna write the problem down and be like, how can I solve this problem? Like literally write those words. How can I solve problem X? And then just start jotting down ideas, and just sometimes that works, you know. I don't know. There are probably ways that you have not thought of to think outside the box and be creative with the time that you do have.
Oh, I'm sure. Sure there are.
And anything could be an improvement, even if it's not like, even if it doesn't get rid of the blocker, if it makes the blocker or obstacle less, that's still helpful, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I get those limitations, but I feel like the thing you got to keep saying though is there's a way, right? There's a way. Like, I don't know what it is yet, but there is a way to figure this problem out and make this problem less, or whatever. I think it's a mindset thing, right? There is a way to like figure out this problem, make this better. I don't know. Abstract self-help. But I believe in it, so.
Oh, it's cliche because it's true.
It's cliche because it's true. I don't know. Don't be too hard on yourself too. Like, give yourself some grace. Like, there's some legitimate things that came up. But I think the point is having a solution-oriented mindset.
Yeah, I tend to be pretty hard. I mean, most people I think tend to be hard on themselves. Like, and it's interesting. Having this conversation with you is actually really helpful because, truthfully, the whole like bottleneck thing, I didn't even really think about that, to be honest, until this conversation. Like, that thought occurred to me during this conversation. It's like, you know what, that really does slow me down at certain points. And there are certain things in guitar building you just have to wait on. Like, you can't, like, the glue's not going to dry faster. Like, like the finish isn't going to dry faster. Like, some of that stuff just takes time. And it can be helpful if you have multiple projects going, right? So you can stay productive while you're waiting for those things. But again, like, if you have limited storage space, like some of that, you're somewhat limited by that.
Yep. Well, I mean, no, and I get that. I'm not trying to ignore that. I just think there's can be two ways to look at a problem, right? You can like be a problem-oriented mindset where there's a problem, and I don't know how to solve it. And there's like the more solution-oriented mindset that like I acknowledge there's a problem and I'm going to figure out a solution to it. Like, I don't know what that solution is, but I'm going to figure out a solution to it. And I think like if I don't know, it's not objective or like concrete necessarily, but like maybe that's something. Maybe you can think about, you can identify the problems you're facing right now and then just literally try to generate solutions to them and then just see what comes out of that, you know?
Yeah.
One thing that like I've thought of that, like, I don't know, for you, and I don't know if you want to do this, but like you've mentioned that you've spent a lot of time at the makerspace doing administrative stuff. One option is stepping down and not being vice president anymore. Like, you originally joined the makerspace to make progress on your stuff. If it's taking away from that, then it's defeating the purpose of being in the makerspace, right? Like,
That thought has occurred to me for sure.
While you have the skills to be vice president, like you have the skill set, you've done it before, like, and maybe they even kind of need you to do that role. Like, that's not why you joined the makerspace, right? Like, you joined to connect with other makers, but you also joined to make progress on your goals. And if it's taking away from that, then I don't know. You know what I mean? Only you can assess whether like that's a good statement or not. But
and I have definitely considered stepping down. Not because I haven't enjoyed it, and not because I disliked it, but because I feel like it is taking away from like what I want. So that has been a consideration for sure. But yeah, lots of things to think about.
I believe,
you know what? Actually, I need to quit this podcast.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Episode 41. This is the last episode of Intune. I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, you know that if you needed extra time, we could just, like, this podcast could go on forever. We don't have to record every month.
Yeah, I know.
I know you're joking, but
I think no, I do think this podcast has been a overall positive force for both of our goals. Actually,
I think so. I think so too. Oh. I believe you could figure out a solution, Matt. You just gotta, you'll come up with something, and I'm gonna hold you accountable.
All right. I appreciate your faith in me, and for being my accountability partner.
I'm gonna be a hard. Be like, did you get X done by this date? If not, you're fired.
All right, well, I better get to work then. So on that note, 2025, what are your goals? Let us know. Let's make it a productive year. And until next time, stay tuned.